Chapter 1. The Forest Calls. They say the forest knows no time. It doesn't count days or remember dates. It lives in sensations. And if you ever entered it carrying pain or fear, it remembers. It doesn't just remember, it waits for your return. My brother Daniel disappeared in Gray Hill Forest exactly 1 year ago. He was 26. He loved solo hikes, camping out under the stars, romanticized it. I always said, "One day you'll never come back." He laughed, and he didn't. He vanished on the 3rd day of his trip. His GPS pinged last near an old wooden bridge over a creek. We, my parents and volunteers, combed every inch of that forest. We found only his boot, a canteen, and a voice recorder. No body, no trace. 9 months passed, and he returned. It wasn't a miracle. It was horror. He stood on our front porch, barefoot, thin, with eyes like carved glass. He didn't speak. He just breathed, odd, jagged breaths, as if someone had fitted lungs into his chest moments ago. He stayed inside for hours, motionless. He didn't sleep. He didn't eat, just stared into empty space, and then disappeared again, without a sound, without a trace. Nobody saw him leave. The door was locked from the inside. Chapter 2. The Tape. After that, my mother fell ill. My father started drinking. I struggled to hold everything together. Work, marking papers, staying awake in class. But something inside me was falling apart. I began looking for clues. Daniel had become cryptic before his disappearance, scribbling symbols in an old journal, talking of dream loops. A month after his second disappearance, I found an old cassette tape in his backpack, along with a hand-drawn map. The map had red marks on trails, and on its back, carved with a knife, "He's still here." I played the tape and heard a voice, my voice, but not quite my voice, older, worn, like someone who'd been screaming into darkness for years. "If you found this, it means you're already inside. Maybe you've just begun, or maybe you've never left. Don't trust reflections. Don't trust memory. Remember the smell of rain. It can't fake rain." Oh. I froze. My hands shook. I smelled damp earth, even inside my apartment. It was my voice, my tone, but I'd never said those words. I took everything to the police. They blamed stress. Hallucinations. One loses grip after a loved one vanishes, the detective said, but it wasn't a sickness. Something was waiting for me, already breathing behind me, even before I'd set foot in Gray Hill. Chapter 3. Gray Hill. I drove there alone. Told everyone I was attending a conference, took the map, recorder, a knife, food, a flashlight. I entered Gray Hill at dawn. The sky was gray, but still. No wind, no bird song. The air was thick like steam, even though it was only 12 degrees Celsius. The first thing I noticed was silence, deep, suffocating silence. A hum in my ears, nothing else. I followed a path. It was unnaturally narrow, as though the forest didn't want me here. After 40 minutes, I reached the bridge, the same bridge on the map. The boards were rotten. but still intact. Beneath me, the water was jet black, motionless. I smelled iron, rust, or maybe blood. I stepped off the bridge. The trail began to twist. The map said to turn left, but there was only a massive oak tree, its bark carved with something. I leaned in, saw this message scratched into the wood. Tom 1406, error number 3 inches fresh. My name and exact time. I looked down at my wristwatch. 1406. I felt the earth shift, as if the forest had taken a step forward. In that moment, I realized I was already inside. Part 2, Chapter 4, The Loop. Chapter 5, The Doppelganger. Chapter 6, The Decay. Chapter 4, The Loop. I walked on. An hour, 2? Time didn't pass. The sun hung motionless behind gray clouds. I started leaving white tape marks every 20 paces. On the 5th tree, I saw the same mark again, withered. I tried to call someone, no signal. The GPS said I was in the ocean. I sat on a fallen log, trying to think, but panic shut down my mind. Causality slipped away. Then I heard a voice, my voice, right behind me. You've been here before. You just forgot every time you left, or thought you did. I stood up, looked around. No one. Look left. I did, pinned to a tree, an old faded photo. It was me, but wearing clothes I haven't worn in a decade. And in the background, a tall figure, its face blurred. Its fingers were too long, like a doll's. It stood right behind me, almost touching. Chapter 5, The Doppelganger. That evening I found what remained of a campsite, a torn tent, a cold, long-dead fire, an old plastic cup and a notebook, and the cover read, Tom Garrett. My name, but the handwriting, different. I flipped it open. First page. If you're reading this, you've reached this point again. Hello. Yes, you are you. Accept that your memory will change. Don't trust anything. No smell, no voice, no reflection. Especially yourself. Next page, a spiral with an eye inside. I sat by the cold embers and finally wept. But no tears came. My eyes burned, but dry. A rustle, I jumped. A man emerged from the woods, moving slow, silent. He looked too much like me, wearing my high school clothes. Even the half-finished tattoo I once planned but never got. He sat across the fire and spoke. Remember when you first feared becoming your father? I froze. I never told anyone that. Honestly, I never admitted it to myself. Who are you? I asked. I am you, he said, but more compliant. What do you want? I'm what remains when you give up, when you accept the forest's rules. I don't fight, I don't seek. I observe, and I serve. He leaned closer. If you want to survive, stop being yourself. Only empties survive here. I raised my knife. He smiled. Oh, too late. You already began. He faded, like steam above cold ashes. Chapter 6, The Decay. On the 6th day, I woke up with no memory of sleeping. I lay under the same tree as last night. Birds sang for the first time, but the melody was hauntingly familiar, like the theme tune of an old childhood video game. Too familiar to be coincidence. My fingernails cracked. My skin flaked. I searched for my face in the air and couldn't remember it. I pulled out a small mirror. I saw someone who looked like me, but wrong. Eyes unnaturally symmetrical, one cheek sagging, a tongue that didn't move right. Inside me, something mechanical. I stumbled into a lake, black, non-reflective. I leaned over and for the first time saw no reflection, only the forest, and a figure behind me, tall, faceless, just empty hollows. I looked around. No one. Looked back at the water, and it smiled at me. Вот финальная часть перевода на английский. Глава 7, 9. Суммарно весь текст теперь занимает примерно 2500 плюс слов. Идеально для 15 минут озвучки. Переведено с сохранением логики, стиля и атмосферы. Part 3, Chapter 7. The Return. Chapter 8, Home. Chapter 9, The End. Chapter 7, The Return. I no longer felt tired. My body moved, but it felt separate from me. Sometimes I realized I was walking, but didn't remember why. And then, light. A burst of sunlight between the trees, bright, unreal. I stepped into a clearing, and there was a road. A real road, asphalt, cars, noise, people. I stood still in disbelief. It felt like the forest had let me go. Why? For what reason? I walked along the roadside. Cars drove by, but none stopped. I tried waving down a bus, so it passed straight through me. I didn't feel the wind. I entered a cafe. People were laughing, drinking, eating. No one noticed me walk in. I approached the mirror. There was a reflection, but it didn't blink. It didn't move in sync. It smiled when I didn't. I stepped outside and called my mother. "Mom, I got out. I'm alive." Silence. "Mom, can you hear me?" Then a voice. "Tom, please stop calling us. You died 12 years ago. We can't do this again." The call ended. I stood in the middle of the street on a bench, a fresh newspaper. Front page headline, "Unidentified man found in Gray Hill. No teeth, no fingerprints, face severely damaged." The photo was blurry, but the shirt was mine. Oh, Chapter 8, Home. I found my parents' house, old but unchanged. I knocked on the door. My mother opened it. For a second, her face flickered. She looked right through me, smiled, and closed the door. I screamed, pounded on the door. No one came. I began to wonder, was I ever real? Or just a shadow left behind in that forest? I walked the city. People passed through me. I no longer felt gravity. The wind didn't touch my skin. Light didn't warm me. I returned to the forest. It was waiting. Chapter 9. The End. Now I'm inside, but it's different. I no longer walk the trails. I am the trails. Sometimes others come and they call out names. Sarah, Dad. Rex. I know them. The forest shows me their memories, how they laughed, feared, hid, and the forest copies them. I try to warn them, but the voice they hear isn't mine. It sounds like me, but empty, soulless, emotionless. The forest has learned to mimic even despair. A few days ago, a girl entered, maybe 20 years old. She carried a photo, a boy, her brother. She shouted, "Daniel, are you here?" I stood nearby. I wanted to tell her to run, but the forest spoke in her voice. "I'm here. Come find me." She followed it. Now I see her face in reflections. Sometimes she sits with me by a fire. Sometimes she's a tree. Sometimes a shadow. But always silent. And her eyes, now glassy, just like my brother's. One day, you'll come here too, not because you want to, but because the forest already knows you will. You feel it, don't you? That chill, that dampness, that feeling someone is watching you, even when you're alone. The forest doesn't forget, it doesn't forgive. It waits, and it has already remembered your voice. Now it's just waiting for you to hear it echo back.